At our school, the writing process mirrors real world writing processes where learners make a first draft that's imperfect, and that's okay. And then they share it, in a semi-public setting, maybe with some peers, maybe with their guide, maybe with their parents or caregivers, maybe with a community member or a visiting expert. And they share that piece of writing, and they see how others respond to it. And maybe others take issue with their grammar. Maybe others take issue with the content. Maybe others take issue with the structure, and then they get feedback. And then our learners take that feedback and they just make another version. And then they rinse and repeat. They share it again. They share it in a more public audience, and they get even more feedback, and then they incorporate it again. And eventually they share it with an expert in writing, and they get some expert feedback on what's called a rubric, which is sort of a scorecard for teachers. And they get some comments, and then they can incorporate those as well. And so it's multiple revisions over multiple time. And they get that without our guides, which is our word for teachers, without our guides ever giving them feedback. And for a lot of people, they're concerned about that. Like, well, how are your learners going to learn if guides aren't giving, direct feedback? The role of the guide is to make sure that the learners are going through that process, number one, and improving and revising their writing over time. And then number two, the guides are making sure that learners have access to high quality feedback. Can they get high quality feedback from their peers? Not always. Can they get high quality feedback from the public, from parents or caregivers, from real world expert audiences? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But that's real life. That's real world. And then eventually, can they get it from an expert? And so our guides are the one making sure, they're curating, they're making sure that learners get that feedback over time so they can get the feedback they need to improve their writing over time. And I think what we find is that the longer learners have been with us in our learner-led environment, they've gained a ton of confidence in their learning. They've gained confidence they've gained confidence in their writing, They've gained confidence in their ability to be able to evaluate their own writing. How good is this piece and how could it be improved? They perceive that they're a lot better at doing that. They're also more motivated to get feedback from outside themselves. And they feel confident that they do have the grammatical skills, they do have the structural writing skills, and they do have the persuasive abilities to be able to write at a high quality level. It's such a delight for us to see the high quality pieces of work that are coming out of our school. And some of the feedback we've gotten from even pre-service teachers at Yale, for example, is that even the writing of our high schoolers is sort of college level, writing. So it's exciting to see, and we invite you to join us and trust the process, and encourage the guides. And if you're someone who can give feedback on writing, reach out to us and let us know.
Each paper has to go through a process where it gets revised by 2 peers at the minimum. And although the guides don't have a direct say in what's being changed, it does you do learn new things because every single student has a different type of knowledge, especially pertaining to writing, where there's so many different little niche things you can know. And that's really helped me to learn all the different pieces that I need to.
Some of my peers are really, really good when it comes to peer feedback because they hold themselves to really high standards, so they do with other people. So they'll help me and kind of pick apart my writing and tell me what would be better in place as opposed to something else.
My writing skills in the beginning were very poor and I didn't want to put much effort into it. I just kind of wanted to get my message across. And it didn't really work well, but my peers were able to give me some very good feedback in that hey, you're using too many commas or you're not using enough, and then where did they go? And then also on top of that, it's not just the peers that are helpful, but it's also the deep books. I love to read, and so reading the books really helped me sort of familiarize myself with how grammar works, what nice words are, and just sort of expand my vocabulary. And I really got to see that as evidence when I took a dual enrollment writing class. And I was one of the better students in the class at writing, even though I hadn't had a traditional sort of education on the writing. Especially because it's there's no writing class. It's all there's storytelling challenges, and that's a once a week thing. And you slowly over time get better and better at it until you haven't even realized you've gotten better at it almost. It just kind of happens.
This is probably the only thing I was skeptical about when starting school. I was how am I learning, how to write? However, it's interesting that my peers, because, your peers are the same people who are reading all of these same books that you are, so they're learning as well as you, but they know when they're reading something, oh, well, there should probably be a comment here because I'm reading it in my head and I didn't write it. The same way you're reading a book and you're like, oh, well, maybe the writer should have done this differently. It's the exact same thing. So it's really interesting to see like 12 to 18-year-olds be like, well, maybe you should do this instead. And you guys just kind of play with it, and it actually really progresses your reading skills a lot and writing skills. Yeah. I wrote my college essay in like the matter of 2 days because I really got to it. And I was able to, I have like kind of a writing tutor that I showed to her, and she was like, wow, this is great, first try. She had a little bit of pointers for me, but she was like, you guys don't even learn to write, so I'm confused as to how this is so good. And I think that was kind of just a testament to the Ford School and like how well the writing situation goes here, because you don't really need a teacher to do it. You kind of have so many people around you who are helping you as well. But I am super confident just because of that.